So, as most of y'all know, that I've been off for a little bit now. Had some very, very close people die in the last couple of weeks. Kind of hit me pretty hard. But in this process, I'm learning a lot of stuff about myself and evaluating a lot of things. And one thing that I learned is, in the process of us grieving, we gotta breathe. It becomes very, very difficult, right? Because the breath that we take in life could actually also be the last breath that we take before death. So the fact that we do not know, we don't have the slightest clue to if the breath that we are taking is our last breath or if it's going to be a continued breath. We have to be very, very mindful of the condition and the state that we are putting not only ourselves in, but other people. We have to be very, very mindful of our mental state, our mental health, our emotional state, our emotional health, and also understanding that the physical presence that we have with other individuals can very much so dictate our emotional and mental state. The environment that we are choosing to put ourselves in, because if all is possible, we can always remove ourselves from somebody's presence. And it has nothing to do with a lack of love, because you can love somebody and still not be in their presence. And you can be in someone's presence and not love them. So do not take for granted that breath that you take. See, when we're talking and when we're speaking, we're actually not breathing. It is in the moments of our silence that we actually breathe. So we have to remember that with silence comes breathing. So in order for you to breathe mentally, emotionally, and physically sometimes, you have to keep silent. And with grief puts us in a position to change our perspective and to evaluate if we choose to. Now, we can choose not to, but sometimes as individuals, we do not make things move in our life until something moves us, such as an emergency, like a fire. So while you are going through the process of making sure you breathe, because breathing is very essential to your mental, your emotional, and your physical well-being. I can just think back and, just being honest with you, I could just think back and, I just buried my grandmother. And as I'm being there for my mother and it's taking a toll on her, the only thing that I could think to my mind to tell her to do is to breathe. So as I'm telling her to breathe, it's reminding her to stop in the process of what she's doing so she can continue to grieve. Because as we're doing things in life, we're not breathing. As I said earlier, when you're talking, you're not breathing. So we have to, and think about it, even sometimes when we're crying, we're not breathing. Because you letting out so much energy, you forget to inhale. So we have to remember and remind ourselves, I have to stop and breathe. Because when I stop and breathe, it'll help me to evaluate the moment, the experience, how I'm feeling, what am I doing? So that's just one of the processes that, you know, we take. And yes, it can be very difficult. But if we consciously and purposely remember to breathe in our silence, we will actually work towards what we need to do for our healing. So remember, while you are living, you do not know if that last breath that you are taking is your last breath of life or if it's your continued breath of life. So just remember, sometimes you got to stop to breathe.